I'm back. I'm back, baby. Ryan's going to tell me about Summer League. I watched a little bit. I'll give you my thoughts on DaRon Holmes. We'll talk a little bit more about Curtis Jones getting the last two-way spot. We'll talk about Tim Hardaway Jr. and what he's going to do this season. And we'll talk about kind of the guys in the deep rotation here as we wrap up Summer League here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us Monday through Friday, hanging out with us all through the offseason. Do appreciate you guys being a supporter, being a true sicko with us here on Locked On Nuggets. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I also write at the Denver Dig, and I just did the Denver Nuggets offseason review over at Hardwood Paroxysm deep dive analysis there. I'm joined by Ryan Blackburn of Mile High Sports. You can catch his work over there as well as at the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. The podcast.
You're a little rough. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm a little rusty. I've been in California. Not the nice part, the gray and miserable part. But I saw a lot of otters, so that was cool. Saw a lot of otters. Programming note, folks talking in our comment section here at youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets, which you can join the show live. I am endeavoring to try and shorten our time and try and get us on a more consistent schedule. I would tell you to plan on 9:15 Mountain Time on Sundays for No Jinx. And this, of course, is no jinx because we never, ever jinx anyone. We would never do that. This was delayed because I brought my webcam with me in case something insane happened and I needed to podcast. And then when I went to go get it, I set up and completely forgot that my stuff wasn't here. And then was like, I have to set up. And so I went to go set up and then I forgot a cord. And so I had to run upstairs to get the cord. And then I got back downstairs and a little clippy thing that attaches the webcam. That wasn't here either. So I had to run back upstairs and do that. And I worked out for 2 hours today. So my legs are like, what are you doing?
What a guy.
So the point here is that I put myself through pain so that you have good video quality on our podcast. That's how much I love you people. I missed you guys. I really did. I'm so excited for the season, Ryan. This is going to be such a fun season. You're going to be in a better mood. Swipe is going to be in a better mood. The locker room is going to be in a better mood. Jokic will be the same as always. But the fans are going to be in such a better mood. There's going to be lots of stuff that's interesting. There's so much interesting stuff. And we have stuff interesting to talk about, including DaRon Holmes, his performance in Summer League. We'll talk about THJ. We'll talk about Curtis Jones getting the last two-way spot and what we think of that. All that and more on today's show. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
Catch any Coldplay concerts while you were gone?
I did not.
Oh,
my wife was with me. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you. The memes have been incredible. It's absolutely incredible. No. Yeah, never mind. I was going to direct this into somewhere and making a comparison to another major news story and then realize we don't want to do that. So anyway, okay, Ryan, I want to know, I haven't seen the shows because I've been doing stuff with the kiddos.
Living life.
So what is your big takeaway from Summer League? What's the biggest takeaway for you from the Nuggets Summer League?
It's hard to have sweeping takeaways from any Summer League just because I think I learned my lesson last year with Jalen Pickett, where he was so bad, man. He was so bad in that Summer League. And I think that stigma kind of carried him for into the preseason, into the regular season, and all throughout that until he started playing pretty good. And people realized, oh, wait, that Summer League didn't actually really matter that much. It was more about, hey, how are you going to play in the actual NBA? So I wanted to temper my expectations on purpose. This was more about, I would say, a victory for DaRon Holmes, just getting back on the floor and being excited to see him move and play and learn a little bit about him and his style and what he's going to do at the NBA level. And you got to realize, of course, he's still 12 months out from an Achilles tear. So he's still got a long way to go in terms of what his recovery looks like. But that was my big takeaway, was that he looked like an NBA player. And that to me is the most important thing.
So I thought like he was good. I think it was a positive step in the right direction. I thought what was interesting is I kind of expected his feel for the game, basketball IQ, speed of the game, for that stuff to be behind, but for him to maybe still look as explosive as not as explosive as he might have before the injury, right? But still pretty explosive, just given his size and strength. And instead, I was kind of like the opposite, where I was like, okay, you know what's actually interesting is like he doesn't look like he's not jumping out of the gym. He's not just like, oh my God, like such a physical, explosive, athletic force. But he's got really great sense for when to cut, how to cut, where to cut. He's got really great sense for how to move the ball, how to move without the ball. Like I thought his floor sense was really high. And that to me is very promising, because that's honestly something like there is never, everyone always kind of thinks like, well, he's got to play. He's just so athletic. The NBA, everyone's athletic. Everyone's good except Joker. And so like everyone's able to do that. But I think that having that kind of floor sense will actually really help him. I was really impressed by his instincts for how to move and where to be, because that's the stuff that will oftentimes get you in the most trouble with your veterans, is not knowing what you should be doing and when.
And to me, it showed up even more on the defensive end for me than the offensive end. He was a guy who was able to switch out onto guards and do a reasonable job defending in space, which I didn't expect from somebody coming off of an injury like this. Now, he's got some of those natural tendencies, and he's not going to battle with those big fives. I think that's one thing that he showed as a weakness, at least initially here. But just in terms of staying involved in the action, staying involved in the play, understanding where the ball is supposed to go. I will say one other thing that I didn't like. He was very uncomfortable dribbling the basketball, especially when he kind of got out into the open court. And I'm not expecting him to be like Giannis out there. That's not the expectation. But when you have somebody out there who's kind of like, he just wanted to get rid of it as soon as possible. And that's, to me, shows somebody that's a little bit more uncomfortable in those kinds of instances, wants to just not make a mistake. And sometimes you make mistakes that way. Sometimes you don't necessarily handle things that well. So I think that there's a lot of potential there. There still is a lot of great things. I really liked his defense. There are some Al Horford comparisons that I think are very favorable for him. And that's an awesome thing. Like, if you can see it, at least at this stage, I think that's a good sign.
See, I like that I like anybody that's like, nope, I don't dribble. That's not my job. I like guys that understand what is and is not their job.
I get it.
Okay, coming up, we'll talk more about DaRon Holmes' NBA Summer League as it has concluded. We'll also talk about Curtis Jones getting the last two-way spot. We'll talk about the ceiling and floor for Holmes in 25-26, and we'll get into a little bit of Tim Hardaway Jr.'s role a little bit later on. Hit us with your questions here at youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets, and we'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. You can find specific categories that you want to cut back on. Like if you notice something has taken a big chunk out of you and you want to peel back on that in order to put resources elsewhere, you can do that. If you share finances, you can take a look at it together across app and be able to examine things and send messages and be able to communicate and figure all of that stuff out. Just got back from Monterey, California. And let me tell you, I never want to spend money ever again, but I was able to handle it because I did all the planning for it through Monarch Money. So I was able to see where I need to move money, where we need to put the stuff, what we wanted to budget for, all of that in Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Monday. Ryan Blackburn, I'm glad to see my guy, Ryan. Fall's coming, and I know fall's coming because Swipe is posting ridiculous things about the Denver Broncos. So,
I saw you retweet that. You didn't even have to say anything. I saw there was a comparison that he made between the Chiefs and the Broncos positional units, and I just saw HP Basketball retweeted. I was like, great, this is going to be a thing.
No, but here's the thing, though, is like I did a lot of research on the plane. Like I started my NFL stuff.
Yeah.
And like the Broncos are going to be really good. Like they're going to be really good this season. You guys are going to have a really great season. It's going to be a really fun year, I think, for you. I'm actually like one of the optimists over at my place over at Actually. A lot of those guys are down on Denver. And I'm like the guy that's like, no, they're going to be good. So turning it around here for you. Let's talk basketball though. So Ken in our comments, Ken, who's always a ray of sunshine, loves summer basketball, getting excited about players that will not see a minute in the playoffs. So here's the thing. Torrey Craig came into the team at midseason and then wound up playing a pretty big role in the playoffs his first year. There are guys that wind up working their way. Like that's not uncommon. And if DaRon or Curtis are in the playoff rotation, you can say then something has gone terribly wrong. But what if something's just gone terribly right? What if they're so good they got to play? Like that stuff happens.
Yeah.
This is the time of the year for that. So I do want to ask you though, Ryan, from what you saw from Holmes, did you get the sense of he's going to be given minutes to start and he has to lose them? Do you see a guy that's like, yes, like he is absolutely a rotation player? Or do you think it's going to be one of those things where we're going to watch and it's going to be like, yeah, November he played and then there were some injuries and he had like a better January and then like he didn't play as much in March? Like, what are you expecting in terms of DaRon's minutes this year? Not per game more, but over the course of the year.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think that there are a couple of different ways that Denver can do it. Obviously, they could try to open up the rotation as much as possible at the beginning of the season, but I think you can make an argument, even without including DaRon, that Julian Strawther and Tim Hardaway Jr. are your 10th or 11th man, and that's a very confusing place to be for a Nuggets team that like you want to make sure that you're getting as many of these guys involved as possible. So DaRon may not play all that often at the beginning. I do think that they will try to find him opportunities throughout the year. There, as you know, like with injuries, with back-to-backs, with just the natural flow of the season, there will be opportunities for him to do so. Aaron Gordon misses a couple of weeks with a whatever. Cam Johnson has only played 1,800 minutes in the highest career season for him. So there will be plenty of minutes at small forward, which will probably shift Peyton Watson there and maybe open up some minutes at power forward with the second unit. So, and then Jokic, Valanciunas, I think that DaRon becomes your emergency third center in those cases if one of those guys needs a break. But I would guess that he doesn't play that much and is more of a spot minutes guy. And I do not think that he's going to be an everyday rotation guy. That's just not the expectation that I have for David Adelman, who's talking about heavy competition within the entire rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that Adelman is absolutely positioning himself to be like fans' favorite coach.
Yeah.
Right? Play the good guys. Right? And that's like what I think fans want. And he's afforded that because of the expectations and kind of where everything is kind of positioned. So I think that's kind of an interesting question.
Can I address this real quick?
Yeah.
Patrick McMahon says Malone would not play DaRon. He absolutely would play DaRon. That's 100% something that he would do. Now, he would find opportunities to kind of close off those minutes by February, March, April. Like that's when that kind of goes away and you start to tighten up the playoff rotation. People have this misremembrance of what Malone was. Like he would play a lot of those young guys. And especially over these past couple of years, he was trying to play Julian Strawther. And like DaRon is he's closer than Julian Strawther was in his rookie season. That's for sure.
I always said if you did the things that Malone asked of you, you would play. That was always the difference. It's like, why doesn't he play this guy that shoots the ball? He makes the threes. I want him to play more. He's good. Why is he good? He made all these shots. Okay, but what if he doesn't make those shots? But he made them. That's what's good about him. And I'd be like, well, no, like you got to understand like the offense. And like if the best way to actually understand whether Malone was going to play or not was to look at the vets and how they reacted to those players. Now, what I will say in defense of that comment is that Malone would not have played DaRon over Jeff Green, right? Like,
sure.
That's where he wouldn't have played DaRon.
But the Jeff Green on this team is Zeke Nnaji.
Yeah, there's no vet. Like, there's no vet power forward for him not to play over.
Yeah.
And since you have two centers, we should do a whole show on this. But can I get like your 30-second take on the conversation Adelman's kind of bringing up about playing Jokic and JV together? What's like your 30-second take?
My 30 seconds is that it will go poorly against really good teams, and it will go pretty well against bad teams because bad teams are bad. And if you're going to play it against bad teams, then that's fine, but this is not a playoff caliber option for you. And if Denver is going to focus on this, they're not going to win a championship.
Okay. One more thing before we get to Curtis Jones. I need this again. We'll circle back on this on Wednesday night show.
Sure.
Everyone thinks they need a point guard. I'm on vacation scrolling, and it's just like, I still like every other comment is like, the Nuggets did a really good job. I don't think they need one more point guard. Like, and I'm, being me, I'm sitting there going like, what more do you want from them? They got like 4 rotation guys.
Now, to be fair, they've got 14 players on the roster. So like, I think everybody's like reasonably waiting for that 15th guy to be signed. I will say, I was at the presser. I asked those guys specifically, Ben Tenz or John Wallace, hey, is there any pressure to sign a 15th guy? The answer is no. I don't think they're going to bring a 15th guy to training camp. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that they're going to save that spot at least for a while, depending on who they want. And maybe it's not necessarily who do we want, it's how much money can we save to stay under the first apron and not trigger the first apron. Like, I do think that that's a thing.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little surprised at the point guard stuff because, I'm just kind of like, well, look, okay, Jamal's gonna stagger because it has been written into the laws of the universe that Jamal has to stagger. And so
second star.
And so like Bruce has always believed he's a point guard. And even if you're like, well, Bruce can't do it, Julian should be able to in the regular season. I think you can just run 2 combo guards, Bruce and Julian, and be fine, especially in those stagger minutes, right? Like if you're concerned about, well, what happens if you bring the ball up and there's no Joker to organize things? Well, that's when you have Jamal. Like that's why you stagger Jamal, is Jamal will then do that. Yeah. And RP3, RP43 seat here says Jamal's terrible at the stagger. He actually wasn't last year. I will say this. If they can't wrangle a functional team out of Jonas Valanciunas with Jamal Murray staggering, I give up.
Yeah.
I give up. At that point, I'm like, go sign D'Angelo Russell like the Mavericks and just have him be your backup point guard. Nothing matters. I will embrace nihilism if they can't make the second unit work with Murray and JV.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, like they'll try that. I think they're probably going to focus more on a 9 to 10 man rotation throughout, but if they are going to stagger somebody with the second unit, it'll probably be Jamal. And if they don't stagger Jamal, then why not play Bruce Brown, Julian Strawther, and Tim Hardaway Jr. together? Like you've got 3 different ball handlers, 3 different guys that can do a variety of different things. Just run a set, run things through JV in the post. Like it shouldn't be that hard. All you have to do is just run your same principles and things will be fine. And like you'll get through the regular season against, like, again, the average basketball team. You're not going to beat OKC that way, but you don't have to beat OKC that way in the regular season. You got to beat them in the postseason. So that's when they'll tighten things up to 8 guys.
Hurricane asks, what's the bar for the second unit working? And then, okay, so they were minus 3.3 with DJ last year.
Can they get to -1?
That seems like such a big ask. Like most teams that are good or their benches are going to be negative.
Right. I agree.
It was minus 3 per 100.
Yeah. Like honestly, the thing is with DJ, it was fine. Minus 3.3 during the regular season was fine, but you couldn't play DJ all of those minutes. The minutes that they played Dario, they were minus 15,000. The minutes they played Zeke Nnaji as the second unit center, they were minus 16,000. So I tend to think that if you could just get to a baseline of -3, and then the secret thing is that the starters were not as consistent. All the Jokic minutes were not as consistent last year, so they should be better this year.
You know what it is? Here's what it is. It's not about the per 100. It's about avoiding that minute between the 8-minute mark and the 7-minute mark where everything goes to hell.
Yeah.
That's what you're really talking about.
I know it. It's a perfect encapsulation of like, oh, it was a good stint until they went -7 in that 1 minute. And then it turned into a bad stint.
Rage timeout, get Joker back on the floor. All right. Coming up, we'll talk about Curtis Jones getting the last two-way spot. I have more thoughts on this than Ryan does. And then we'll talk about Tim Hardaway and what his role might be with the Nuggets this season. We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us. This show's called No Jinx because we would never jinx anyone. I'm known for saying the Nuggets are cooked when they are not. And Ryan's known for saying, well, I see no way that this can possibly figure this out. And then
they do.
We are masters of the reverse jinx.
It was pretty bad this past year. I'm not going to lie. But during the championship year, it was fantastic. They came back every single time.
I mean, look, I don't think anyone buried them harder than we did after Clippers Game 3. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yep, that was a low point.
It all ended up the same in the end.
So, all right. So Curtis Jones gets the last two-way spot, and I would have thought you would be a little more excited about him, and it seems like you're very much like on him.
I don't expect him to have this massive role. Nor should anybody really expect a two-way guy to have the massive role. What I will say in his defense and in kind of your positivity for him is that I liked his skill set. And I said this on Friday night during the Friday Locked On show, that I liked his skill set for the third two-way better than somebody like Reese Beekman, who I think was more of your traditional kind of Jalen Pickett style, traditional point guard. Whereas Curtis Jones just getting you buckets, like that could absolutely really help. And he was shooting it and has so much confidence in that spacing. Like he can pull up from 30 and be fine. So I love that. I think that'll be fun to watch at least. And who knows what that turns into. But if you can put the ball in the basket, there's a role in the NBA for you.
So the F5, which is a really great Substack, had a post that I thought was really interesting where he broke down the sticky stats from summer league to the regular season. And one of the things that it was really interesting about, like, spoiler, 3-point percentage is the second to lowest in terms of stickiness. So it doesn't carry over, which makes sense. You're in a random environment. The competition is low. Guards are going to dominate in those instances because they can freelance and just kind of shoot. It's a small sample. Again, if you're just hot, it helps a lot. And then the season's long and arduous, et cetera. And your minutes are very scattered and you're like going in cold to just kind of get them up.
Sure.
All that said, I really like taking this type of player on a two-way contract to try and develop the gold. There's been some reporting on what the new gold's going to look like with Chad Iskey taking over as general manager of the gold. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do there. I think it's going to be like a fascinating kind of situation. Apparently Bowen is going to take over. There's been a lot of talk that Bowen's going to take over.
Yep.
Has that been confirmed?
Yes, that has been confirmed. He's going to be the head coach.
So that's great because Bowen's been around forever. And so Bowen's going to really be able to bring like a lot to the table in terms of getting those guys organized. And so like, I just think the more the resources that you can pour into the gold, the better, because I do think, so here's the thing, they needed more veterans, right? We screamed about this. I screamed about this. I've been yelling about it since the dawn of time that they need veterans, that you need actual NBA players. Right. But now that they've gotten that, when I look at this roster, now is where I'm like, oh, hey, now you should be backfilling by working on the gold and really putting resources in and trying to figure out what you can get out of that program to develop them. So I think Curtis Jones, like, yes, the 3-point shooting was probably an outlier, but I do think that he's the type of player taking a good chance on along with Bates. I think that's a good add there. And so I actually like their two-way squad quite a bit here. I think they had the right process, even though, by the way, PJ Hall got picked up by the Grizzlies. Like, good for PJ. I'm hoping for good things for PJ. He was great to cover in the locker room. I still think that kid's an NBA player.
Sure.
So I just think, but I think with this move, I actually really liked adding Curtis Jones and giving him an opportunity in Summer League and then adding him as their last two-way guy.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And so you've got Tamar Bates, who's also he's not really in that vein as a scorer. I would profile him as more of a 3-and-D kind of combo guard, somebody who like you're gonna want him spacing, you're gonna want him just mostly D'ing up and being aggressive from there. But it's a couple of different types of guards that you can get. I like Spencer Jones a lot. I think that he looked actually really good from a physical perspective and just like moving his feet defensively. So there's potential there. I hope that they continue to invest in those guys. You want to get as many good opportunities to those players as possible because like that's why the two-way system exists, right? You want to have some extra flexibility that you can get with some younger players. So if they're not fully investing in it, then they're probably not doing their job. So I hope that this is a signifier for things to come, things to change.
So we'll do more, I think, on THJ, probably an episode because we have many days until opening night. But you kind of want to talk about Tim Hardaway Jr.'s role tonight because it's been going through your head a little bit. So what do you think as far as like, what are your like initial thoughts on THJ and what his role is going to be on this team?
Yeah, so it was fascinating because when I first saw the signing, I was over the moon. Like, because you get a guy like that for the minimum. And it's like, this is found money. This is a player that I definitely valued it way higher than that. The money kind of dried up for him in different situations. And you want to go play with Jokic? You want to go make another contract that way? That's great. Like, awesome. Freaking fantastic. That's exactly what you hope for. And then you start to look at the depth chart. You start to look at the rotation and the kinds of lineups that Denver's going to play. And I think Bruce Brown's like pretty much penciled into that 6-man spot. I think Jonas Valanciunas is definitely going to play every single night. That's what you brought him in to be. It's the backup center. And you've got Peyton Watson, who's kind of your bridge forward, your defensive guy. And then you start to get into, okay, is Julian Strawther going to play? Is Tim Hardaway Jr. going to play over him? Can you play both of those guys at the same time? What happens to DaRon Holmes and Zeke Naji in that case? Like, do you want to go bigger and play Peyton Watson at the 3, which a lot of people seem to feel is his natural position, and then actually play a traditional power forward next to those guys? Can you play Julian Strawther in that case? So I just think it's very fascinating to think about what Denver can do. Like, this is a problem that OKC doesn't necessarily have because they just play everybody. They play all of their guys. They find time. It doesn't matter. I talked to David Adelman, and I kind of think that he's going to want to go with 9 to 10 guys on a consistent basis, kind of like what Michael Malone did. So be interesting to see if Denver finds time for all these guys, especially if somebody like Tim Hardaway on a consistent basis.
Man, that's a really good question. Like, if it comes down to Julian can play or because like Peyton's going to have better, more minutes, better impact, bigger role than either of those guys. Like, he just has to. Like, if he doesn't, his agent's going to set fire to the building.
100%. And so I also, another thing to think about is the extension conversation that Peyton Watson and Christian Brown are having at this point, and how that's going to affect into the regular season. That's like, think about what Jonathan Kuminga is going through right now. I know Peyton Watson's like in a different situation kind of status wise for where Jonathan Kuminga is, but like kind of same thing where they don't really want to pay him. So I kind of understand where this thing's going to go.
And the new CBA, as I return to the horrors of the CBA, it's given the justification. We entered a period where restricted free agency, like for a while, it was like, yeah, you could squeeze them a little bit. Like, depending on the player, like you could squeeze. And then we went through a period where it was like nobody squeezed them. And it was just like, nope, we love you. 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 Let us pay you as quickly as possible, as much money as we can, or a lot of money right now. And the CBA now is like, maybe we'll make you sweat unless you're like if you're Cade Cunningham, then yeah, we're gonna max you, right? Like we're the max. Everybody that's not a max is like, let's see what the market comes. Let's see. And so I think Christian gets paid. I do not think Peyton does. And I think Peyton hits restricted free agency and then they squeeze him. Because it's like, if you can get Peyton on a below market deal. Now, if I'm his agent, I'm livid. Like, I would just I would just be like, what does my guy have to do? Right? Like, why don't you just let my guy go somewhere where he can actually be a guy? And that's I will say, like, I don't love that because it creates this environment where it's like Peyton's going to have to force it. Right? Like like we've talked about it a lot on the show. There was a current last year of the guys being like, do your job. Don't worry about your shots. Let's win basketball games. And I am sympathetic to players in Peyton's position because I'm like, he doesn't get a bunch of these contracts. Like, he needs to set up a standard. Like, he needs to lock in this raise because that impacts every deal after for him. This is about his long-term earning potential.
Oh, yeah. The other thing is he was the 30th overall pick and wasn't like that was going high on the end of where he was supposed to be drafted. So like he doesn't have the profile of a player that's going to stick around a ton unless he sticks it on this particular deal. So I'm going to be interested to see where it goes from here, but I sympathize with him. He did kind of like he had a lower usage last year. He did a lot of the things. He was very good defensively in a lot of these cases. I think that there were some times where he stepped back and then wasn't necessarily perfect, but it's going to be fascinating, man. Like that's the one kind of domino that I'm still waiting to fall.
I need to take your temperature on this. If it comes down to one guy, only one of these guys can play, Julian Strawther or THJ, who do you want to play?
Hardaway. I would
We're
prefer
in bizarro world. We have entered bizarro world.
Well, no, so here's the thing. Like,
no, I want the young guy. That's why it's bizarre. Is I'm like, no, Julian's got so much zip and pop. Let the kiddo play.
Also, here's the thing. Like, Julian Strawther could be anything. He could even be Tim Hardaway Jr., man. Like,
yeah, I get it. I think I like Julian's floor game more than THJ's at this point. Like THJ, like back in his, it's weird to say prime, but it's true. Like back in his first Atlanta days, like THJ was a pretty, like he was a good all around player. And like since then, like, you know, again, like with Bruce and like with Tim, the teams that he's been on, like their fans will tell you how frustrated, and like the Nuggets fans will go through the exact same frustration, the same way that they went through the frustration with Russ, right? But you know, I hear you. I think Tim's a more solid defender now than he ever has been, just because like he's entered that phase in his career where the veterans have done it. When you reach that point where you've played this many years, like you just know where to be because you've been doing it for 6 months of the year over and over and over again. And that really helps, I think.
So I mean, kind of the problem is Denver's kind of running out of time to develop some of these guys. If you could turn Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson into one prospect that you feel comfortable developing and going forward and saying, this is a guy that we want to continue to build around, I think that's probably the best case scenario, but I don't want
more trades.
I don't think it's off the table, in particular because of the extension conversations can get pretty nasty.
You're never satisfied.
Always push. Matt, you always want to push. You always want, and like, look, I'm not actively trying to campaign to get those guys moved, but what I will say is that Denver, this is the year. This is the year you want to get it done. You want to do everything you can to get it done this year.
You just want to update more spreadsheets. That's all you want. I'm in on Julian Island. I'm holding my property. All right, it's gonna do it for Locked On Nuggets. Glad to be back with you guys. Swipe will be with you tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, Swipe and I will do a show, and then Ryan and I will do a show. You got double dip on Wednesday, so make sure to tune in for that. Appreciate you guys being with us. Let us know what you want us to talk about. We'll catch you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets. Wha-bam.